Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by Freedom Chat, an AmFed coin and bullion. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and MyPillow. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you're using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these awesome videos. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well...
I challenge you to a duel. I accept.
We know where you live. Now, file this under karma, serious karma. Remember this?
Following a comprehensive 3-year investigation by my office, including witnesses, interviews with more than 65 witnesses, and review of millions of documents that were submitted by Mr. Trump and others, I am announcing that today we are filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump for violating the law. The complaint demonstrates that Donald Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself and to cheat the system, thereby cheating all of us.
But wait!
The Angle has obtained shocking allegations leveled by the Trump administration against New York Attorney General Letitia James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ accusing James of mortgage fraud. In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Bill Pulte says James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. He cited a property in Virginia that she's allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of the required, instead of a 5, which Pulte says means she was able to get a different type and more favorable loan. Joining me now is Jonathan Turley. Your reaction to these allegations?
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York, in not just the civil but the criminal case, was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions. And one of these sections, Section 1014, of the federal code, is prosecuted. It took me about 60 seconds of a search to find cases that the Department of Justice brought against people who falsely claimed that property was their principal residence in order to get loans. So this is well-tread areas for the Justice Department. As for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. What the administration is saying is this was not her principal residence. In fact, as a New York elected official, she had to say that her principal residence was in New York. This was an out-of-state residence. But also, they claim that in some of these forms, she actually states that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. So there's a lot of those questions. And as you know, the Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see knowing false statements under sections like 1014, not just misleading statements. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not.
Or it's not.
Either you're married to your father or he's your father. So they can this can satisfy the Thompson standard.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, we reached out to the DOJ, and they have no comment on this referral. We also reached out to Attorney General James, who did not respond to us either. This is not a novel application of the law, Jonathan. As you stated during the persecution of Donald Trump, she was using all these novel applications of law to go after him. This isn't novel. This is a black and white issue. You either did or you didn't.
Right, and this has been prosecuted in the past. Now, we have not heard her side of this, but these documents themselves are quite damning. It's hard to see how the residences listed were her principal residence. The business about her father is just bizarre. Now, I'll note that one of the things that Letitia James stressed in her case against Trump is that Trump had to review documents that were filed in his name. And so she dismissed the argument that this was something that Trump's people put together. She said he's ultimately responsible. So they allege that she gave a power of attorney in a couple of these instances, but according to her own standard, that's not enough.
You cannot make this up.
There's no... That's only in the panhandle you can get away with that statement.
With the president of El Salvador sitting right next to him, President Trump is asked by CNN's Caitlin Collins about the MS-13 gang member the Trump administration deported to El Salvador. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0. The U.S. doesn't have to bring him back. And the president of El Salvador says he has no intention of sending him back.
Do you plan to ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him, President
And you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant, because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised with the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
any
Court
help
is
to get
asking
him back?
to.
And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo
President
liberaría,
Bukele,
Presidente
what is
Bukele?
your, can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to have suggested that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah,
they're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say about?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple.
Stephen Miller elaborates.
Well, as an example, there are thousands of either trained Nicaragua members left in this country or their affiliates and associates. So obviously some portion of those will be going to El Salvador as part of our effort to eradicate this foreign terrorist organization from the United States. But there's no upper limit to the agreement. We're going to continue to send foreign terrorist aliens to El Salvador as well as to many other countries.
Ruh-roh, Joe Biden emerges from the witness protection program to falsely accuse Trump of seeking to dismantle Social Security.
And Social Security is more than a government program. It's a sacred promise. We made it a sacred promise. 73 million Americans receive Social Security. From their first paycheck to their entire life, they pay into Social Security. And in return, they count on Social Security to be for them when they're going to need it. Folks, must never, ever betray that trust or turn our backs on that obligation. And remember, we also faced a constant threat by some members, Republican members of the Congress, to cut and gut Social Security, period. Cut and gut it, period. They wanted to let Social Security expire every 5 years. That was the proposal. Let it expire every 5 years unless reauthorized by the Congress. Who in the hell do they think they are? Every 5 years, and then wait around and be, well. I will not go further or get in trouble, but look, folks. You can imagine the chaos it would have charged. Every 5 years, Congress is going to step up. You imagine this Congress stepping up? And then they even tried to face cuts, force cuts on Social Security during the negotiation of the debt ceiling. These are wonderful guys. Last time this guy had the job, he raised the debt ceiling because of an enormous and profligate tax cut to the super wealthy. And then he said, look, then they started talking to us, his colleagues. Well, maybe we can do something about Social Security, but we got to do something about the debt ceiling. How are we going to do? We can find the money in Social Security. Unless we do what they wanted to cut Social Security. Not on my watch.
And Biden, the great white father, reminded everybody that he was a pioneer in pursuing equal rights for colored kids.
That's what got me involved in politics in the first place. Delaware, like Maryland, was one of those states, was a slave state. We had all the vestiges of what was going on back in the day. We were one of those states that still, I remember moving from Scranton, Pennsylvania down to Wilmington, Delaware, when Cole died. My dad moved back to where we could get a job. And I remember I pulled into, my mom would drive us on the Philadelphia Pike connecting Wilmington and Philadelphia. And we lived in an apartment complex. And she'd drive us it was only about a half a mile to Holy Rosary School in Claremont. But it was so dangerous, she wouldn't let us walk up because of access road. I remember pulling into the parking lot, And I'd never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time and I was only going in 4th grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by. They never turned right to go to Claymont High School. I wondered why. Asked my mom, why? So in Delaware, they're not allowed to go to school, in public school, with white kids, honey. That sparked my sense of outrage as a kid, just like it does. I mean, and these young kids right here can tell you things affect them when they learn about something that's really just unfair and unjust.
I think that's the first time I've heard the story about the colored kids not being able to go to the same school. And I'm trying to figure out what the devil that has to do with Social Security. Hey, race card, right? Don't leave home without it.
Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
It's about why I got involved in the first place. Look, I got out of school, high school, and my state was segregated by law to its great shame in Delaware. And I got involved in the civil rights movement. No great shakes, just sit-ins, and things like that. And the end result of this was all the friends I made.
He lied to voters, according to the New York Times, quoting aides of Biden's, about having marched in the civil rights movement. And the New York Times reports, quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood and kept telling the story anyway. That is really, really weird.
I got started in politics because of the civil rights movement. I noticed some of you were looking at it. I thought you were wondering, how does he know the black national anthem? Well, because I sat in a black church after going to 7 o'clock mass. I'm happen to be a practicing Catholic. At 10 o'clock on the east side, getting ready to go out and desegregate restaurants and movie theaters. When you're involved in the civil rights movement as a kid in high school, I used to go down to the black church. I go to 7:30 mass. I'm a practicing Catholic. Then I go to 10 o'clock. And then we sit and plan what we're going to do in terms of desegregation. You think I'm joking? I'm not.
Joe Biden said, if you don't know whether you're for me or you're for Trump, then you ain't black. What do you think about a Democrat that would rob an American of their heritage simply because that American doesn't want to vote Democrat?
Well, they're probably racist to start off with. Biden's probably racist, but they're probably racist to start off with. I heard him when he made that remark a while ago, and it was a stupid remark then. And actually, it wasn't well received by black people at all.
And you ain't black. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
I would ordinarily be going through black neighborhoods on the foot, working through the neighborhoods. I have a tradition. I close every campaign, no matter what campaign, going into the projects and going down the east side. And, hey, Joe, how you doing? Everybody, well, just because they're my friends, let them know I'm still there. We can't do that now. Not because of the black community, because it's too dangerous for me to be out walking on a company.
Hey, all the kids, you want to come up here and listen? Come on up here. Come up behind me. Because I'm not holding up between them and the pool, man. Come on. My name's Joe Biden, Vice President Biden. Everybody come on up and stand with me. What's your name? There's okay, Cherry. Look, folks, I want to set the record straight in a couple things. The point I want to make is I owe you all. I owe this neighborhood. I learned so much. I was a kid from suburbia. I lived out in Mayfield in a split-level home with my grandpop living with us and in a 3-bedroom home with 4 kids, my grandpop. And folks, when it's a whole 100 years ago, but I was a senior in high school, and Przicki turned out to be a great athlete at the University of Delaware, but I was runner-up the state scoring championship here in football. I wasn't bad either. And but I wanted to get more involved. And I realized I lived in a neighborhood where I'd turn on the television and I'd see and listen to Dr. King and others. But I didn't know any black people. No, I really didn't. You didn't know any white people either. That's the truth. So I wanted to work here. And there's my daughter, Ashley. Come on up here, Ash. And so what I did was I came down and I applied to the city of Wilmington for a job. And I was the only white employee here. And I learned so much. I learned so much. And remember Boom Boom Cannon and a few other guys that worked here as well. And we sit there and we talk, and they'd ask me questions because I really was the only white guy they really knew. And they'd ask me questions about everything, I mean, things that just startled me. I remember one time, I won't mention which lifeguard, said, "Do I have a jerry can, a 5-gallon can for gasoline?" And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "But what do you need it for?" He said, we're going down to see my grandmama in North Carolina. We can't stop at most gas stations. They won't let us stop at most gas stations. I learned a lot. This was the diving board area, and I was one of the guards, and there weren't allowed to, there was a 3-meter board. And if you fell off sideways, you landed on the darn cement over there. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, "Hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off." Well, he came off, and he said, "I'll meet you outside." My car, these were all public housing behind it. So I walked out with the chain. And I walked up to my car, and they had, in those days, you used to remember the straight razor, you'd bang them on the curb, get them rusty, put them in a rain barrel, get them rusty. And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. I came back to Delaware and I got a fancy job with the oldest law firm in the state. But the city was burning. It was burning down here. And I couldn't do it. So I quit and became a public defender. He said, and I mean it sincerely. He looked at me and he said, "One hunky's just as bad as any other. I'll take whoever you send me." I defended him. He got beat up right on the other side of the field here. He walking along the tracks. He was a sailor in a sailor's uniform, the guy who he beat up and robbed. And so I thought he was innocent. I kept the jury out 5 hours, but they convicted him. And I felt so bad. So I go down to the old prison all the time. The third time, saying, "I'm appealing this case." And finally, he took the table, he flipped it up, and he said, jumped up, and the guards came and grabbed him. He said, "Don't you understand, Joe? I did it. I did it." But here's the point. He cared about me. This is a man who saw me bleeding because I saw this guy going to jail and I thought he was innocent. There's character, even in great problems. There's so much character in this neighborhood. I was a pretty darn good lifeguard. Yeah, man. I taught swimming, too. And I remember going over, we used to play the other pools, and we played basketball at lunchtime, remember? We went over to Riverside, we played. And someone on the other team threw the ball to me by accident. And they looked at me and said, "Oh, God, I thought you were on my team." I'm thinking, I'm the only white boy within 20 miles. The neighborhood's always had my back, and God willing, I've always had your back. So how you guys doing? Who here is going to be president someday? Raise your hand. All right. I'll tell you one more story on their way out. You know what? There was a guy, when I first started, black folks weren't even allowed to vote very easily. That's how long ago it was. And guess what I got to do? 8 years ago, I got to be in the Wilmington train station. looking over the 3rd Street Bridge that had been burned to the ground, most of it, thinking nothing was ever going to get any better 40 years ago, waiting for a black man to pick me up, to take me 124 miles to be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States. That's progress. We can make more. God love you all.
Did you know that trillions of data records were exposed in 2024? From the AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile data breach that exposed the text records of over 100 million Americans, to the Change Healthcare data breach, or even more recently, a hacking group claims to have stolen every single American Social Security number. People are confused, concerned, and off about the invasion of privacy that's currently going on. And yet, despite these concerns, many people continue to use messaging apps that claim to be private and secure. But are they? These apps also track your location, time spent on the app, your activities within the app, your browser, phone type, carrier, and even other identifiers such as your financial information and political affiliation. Newsflash, if you're not being charged for an app, you are the product. Your data is being collected and used, often without your permission and in ways you might not even realize. Here to tell you more is advisor, board member, and renowned radio and TV host, Larry Elder.
Freedom Chat is a private social messenger that allows you to message who you want and subscribe to the channels you want, all in complete and total privacy. With true end-to-end encryption, soon to be quantum safe encryption, no storage of messages on your servers, and absolutely no commercial use of user data. Your conversations and your data belong to you, not big tech, not governments, not malicious hackers. Is Freedom Chat, Tanner, easy to use? Am I good at tennis? You see, with Freedom Chat, you can edit, unsend, and self-destruct messages, share images, videos, or GIFs.
It's GIFs.
GIFs?
GIFs.
Really?
It's GIFs.
It's not GIFs?
No, it's GIFs.
When did they change it? Prevent screenshots and customize fonts and colors and enable dark mode, all from one user-friendly dashboard.
Our team is working incredibly hard to make our dreams a reality, and we want you to join us.
Don't watch from the sidelines. Invest in freedom, invest in your privacy, and be a part of history.
Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat.
Download the app today. GIFs?
GIFs.
Honestly?
GIFs.
GIFs?
GIFs.
What does it stand for? It stands for I have a lot of choices about who I work with in the precious metals industry, and so do you. I really love the fact that for over 45 years, AmFed Coin and Bullion has been serving buyers and sellers of coins and precious metals. AmFed has earned a reputation for providing helpful information, transparency, and fair pricing. Nick Grovich is especially hands-on. He believes that educated consumers make strong investors. Nick is upfront and transparent about AmFed's commission structure. Their typical markup, only 3 to 7% compared to many dealers that may charge as high as 35% or even more. That is a remarkable difference. When you are choosing to invest in gold, it's important to be wise in whom you choose to execute that investment. Call AmFed Coin and Bullion today, 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. If you're in the Phoenix area, make an appointment to visit them in person as I did. You will be impressed. That's 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. Jasmine Crockett says it's beyond wild. Nobody is asking Donald Trump to take a mental acuity test.
But this crazy tariff war that nobody asked for, where he basically is invoking emergency powers, the same thing that he did under the Alien Enemies Act, like the fact that no one is questioning his mental acuity or fitness to serve is beyond wild to me, right? Like the fact that they sat around, called Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, and as I said before, at least you could sleep at night because you didn't have to worry about your 401k disappearing overnight. You didn't have to worry about these allegations of fake invasions, you didn't have to worry about the cost of food just skyrocketing or skyrocketing costs of all of your electronics.
And by the way, I took my cognitive exam as part of my physical exam, and I got the highest mark, and one of the doctors said, "Sir, I've never seen anybody get that kind of, that was the highest mark." I hope you're happy with that, although they haven't been bugging me too much to take a cognitive. But I did do my physical, and it was released. I hope you're all happy with it. I noticed there's no question, so probably you are. But the cognitive, they said to me, "Sir, would you like to take a cognitive test?" I said, "Did Biden take one?" "No." "Did anybody take one?" "No, not too many people took them." I said, what about Obama? Did he take one?" "No, he didn't take one either." I said, "Let me be the only one to take one." But I've actually taken them 3 times already. I like taking them because they're not too tough for me to take. But we had a great physical exam, so I know you're going to ask that. And the doctors, who are total professionals, Walter Reed Medical Center, they're great people. And I visited a soldier that was badly wounded, incredible soldier, lost his leg, and spent a lot of time with him. I mean, great with his mother, and it was really a very great thing. They do a phenomenal job. I just want to say, Walter Reed, I was there for, 5-6 hours. You were there with me. But I took a full physical, and it came out perfecto, so it's good. She got me for a little longer.
He was State of the Union. I believe he spent 90 minutes speaking to congressional members in front of him, to the American people. After that, he spent an hour shaking hands and saying hello and greeting the congressional members and their guests. And this is a president that works day in and day out, in a grueling fashion, with a grueling schedule, and delivers. And let's not forget, it is interesting that we get this question about this president, who has had one of the most historical presidency in his first 2 years than any other president, almost any other president.
And I'm gonna demand a drug test too, by the way. I am. No, I really am. I don't want him coming in like the State of the Union. He was high as a kite. I said, "Is that Joe up there? A beautiful robe?" And by the end of the evening, he's like, "Well, he was exhausted, right?" Now, we're going to demand a drug test.
Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely...
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not.
Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had a full physical. I had, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. Yes, the answer is...
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test.
Does President Biden, at 81 years old, have Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, or degenerative illness that cause these sorts of lapses? And it's a yes or no question. And if you don't know, why don't you, as one of his senior staff members, know?
I have an answer for you. Are you ready for it? It's a no. And I hope you're asking the other guy the same exact question.
You said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look, 2 things. 1, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist. In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay? although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity to do decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember with the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II.
You need an extraordinary memory because you have to come back to where you started.
They don't give you credit for that. You could go all the way over here and then get back.
I can go so far here or there. And I can come back to exactly where I started. Someday when you don't come back to where you started,
you're blinded.
I'm going to move and see if we can expand it. You know, the only thing age does is help you with, creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention.
That's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
You should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So, every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking
Kevin
me.
Kennard, come to the White House.
But I also.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
Meantime, Yamiche, President Trump had his annual physical on Friday. Do we know anything about the state of his health?
Well, yesterday, President Trump spent nearly 5 hours at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center getting that physical. The president said he took several different tests, including a cognitive test and several different heart tests. The president said he expects the results to be released tomorrow. And at 78 years old, President Trump is the oldest in U.S. history to be sworn into the office. That said, he said he feels like he is in, quote, very good shape.
Looking at this report, he lost 24 pounds since his exam in 2020. What was your reaction?
Well, first of all, I think the losing weight is a very good sign. His blood pressure is still in normal range. I think he doesn't have to say that he passed a cognitive test, because you could see how he goes from morning to night and how he's unscripted most of the time, and he speaks very clearly and thinks clearly. I'm not surprised he got a perfect score on that test. I think we need to talk in terms of health span here, because we always talk about how old somebody is, but President Trump carries himself, and his health is like that of a much younger person. And for those out there, what are the lessons here? How about that he doesn't drink alcohol and never has because of his brother that did? How about that he doesn't smoke and never has? How about that he's so active? And it's pretty funny, by the way, that he says there that he's frequently victorious at golf. His doctor says that. Well, that we both know that that's true, Ainsley, but that sense of humor decreases stress that he has. Everyone that knows the president knows how funny he is. That decreases stress. That makes people around you less stressed. Again, the low blood pressure. Also, his cholesterol numbers. Now, he's on 2 cholesterol meds, but they're working. His cholesterol is very, very low. It's 140. All of that bodes very, very well for his health.
Okay, he said on Air Force One on Friday, he said, I felt I was in very good shape.
Joe Biden was unavailable for comment.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
All men and women created by you know the thing.
Remember when Chuck Schumer slammed Trump for not doing more to combat China's cheating?
I'd like to see him explain his decision to the thousands of steelworkers whose jobs are on the line because their companies aren't competing on a level playing field because China repeatedly subsidizes, doesn't play by the rules, and cheats. It's another classic example of the Trump administration promising one thing, but doing another. President Trump has promised many times to crack down on China, and still, 10 months into his administration, his Commerce Secretary is once again needlessly delaying a preliminary step in that effort. Every time I see Secretary Ross, I've known him for 30 years, he's a New Yorker like I am, I say to him, when are we going to do something on China? Oh, we're going to do something tough. And each time there's a different excuse. This should have happened in the first 2 months of the administration. It hasn't. So, because of the Republican inaction, because of the president's unfulfilled and rapidly becoming broken promise on being tough with China, Senate Democrats will be sending a letter to President Trump and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross demanding that the administration keep its promise to crack down on China's unfair and predatory trade practices. Now, one more thing on China. Today I read Tesla, our great car manufacturing company, will be relocating to China. When you want to sell cars or many other advanced products in China, you have to do one of two things. Set up a joint ownership company which lets them steal our intellectual property or face huge tariffs. That's based on the fact that the WTO was poorly negotiated and China was regarded as a developing country. That was the fault of President Bush and President Obama. Neither did enough to stop China. Based on his campaign rhetoric, you'd think President Trump would be tougher as China steals our family jewels. It's no longer clothing and furniture. It's our best industries. They steal our intellectual property by these joint ventures. Sometimes they do it by cyber theft. A lot of times they do it by cyber theft. And it's hurting the good-paying jobs that might be available to our children and grandchildren. Based on campaign rhetoric, you'd think President Trump would be tougher on China. But so far, it's been a lot of talk and not very much action.
Very simply, this is about the President of the United States defending the core national security interests of the United States. China has hollowed out our defense industrial base. This is very important for your viewers to understand. America cannot create the essential materials it needs to ensure our security into the future because China has stolen those supply chains. So America, but not just America, our allies around the world are dependent on China for our own defense, for our own economic well-being. That is the national security threat the president is responding to. And he's going to take whatever actions are necessary to ensure that he can keep America safe and that we can live in a country in which American workers and American factories can supply all of the materials and needs for our national security and defense. I believe that China will be forced very soon to come to the table for the simple reason that China's economy is completely dependent on its exports to the United States and to the West. China has built its entire industrial strategy since its entrance into the World Trade Organization on being able to sell highly subsidized, currency-manipulated, dumped goods into U.S. markets. It is an industrial strategy from China to product dump strategically to take out American steel, to take out American aluminum, to take out core American defense industries and defense needs so that we're reliant on China. And what's happening here is that China is now discovering for the first time that they have met an American president who is not going to be intimidated, who's not going to be bullied, who's not going to be coerced, who's going to stand up for our essential security needs.
How worried are you about a recession right now because of the tariffs?
A what?
A recession.
No, not worried about a recession.
Real quick about the 400% China tariff. Are you worried, though, about product prices, how high they would go with something like that?
It's just a negotiating tactic to get them to the table. That's all it is. It's so painful for both sides that it forces a union in some way or another in some kind of settlement eventually. It's got to be done now. It has to be done now.
What do you think of Democrats like Pelosi who were tough on China and tariffs like in the 90s, 2000s?
It didn't work. It never worked. That was the problem.
You mean it never worked before, in the past?
Not a single administration has been effective protecting IP or enforcing any laws that had any consequence. And all of us that have been investors have been waiting for some resolution to this. And I'm hopeful this time it's going to work. I don't know that yet, but now's the time to do it. All right, thank you.
Inflation watch.
Trump promised that he would lower costs, in fact, on day one, but what we've seen under his reckless leadership is that costs aren't going down in America. They're going up. Inflation is going up.
Really?
Yes, these are our March read on Producer Price Index, the more wholesale side of the inflation equation, and they're big numbers, down 0.4 on headline, down 0.4. That would be equal to where we were in October of 23. And if we find a lower number, you're going all the way back to April of 2020 in the COVID-affected era, and that was down 1.2%. Now, let's strip out food and energy, down 0.1%. That equals where we were in February. It equals where we were in July. To find a lower number, you're in April of 2020 at minus 0.3. If we look at ex-food, energy, and trade, it is up 0.1, also much less than we were expecting. Up 0.1 equals where we were in November of last year. To find a bigger, smaller negative number, you're minus 0.8 in April of 2020. Now let's look at year-over-year final demand, 2.7, well below our expectations of 3.3, well below 3.2 in the rearview mirror. To find a lower number, you're in September of last year, so we see that this metric had been moving up. Now it's moving back down.
Well, Jessica, this is the second day in a row we're getting some encouraging news on the cost of living. The one catch, and it is a big one, is that it does not fully capture the impact of the trade war, right? This is measuring prices in March before the full impact of all of the tariff increases. Well, let me run you through the numbers first. So we're talking about the Producer Price Index. This is wholesale inflation before it gets to all of us as consumers. And we were expecting an increase in prices month over month. We did not get that. We got a drop in prices. Look at this, 0.4%. That is much better than anticipated. The annual rate, we were anticipating around 3.3%. We did not get that. We got a much lower number, 2.7%. This is a deceleration. And when we look at the trend, we can see that things have certainly improved from a few years ago when it comes to inflation. This metric, the graphic's not up right now, but this metric was around 11%.
I want you to do it from memory.
Coming in under minus 0.1 on headline, minus 0.1. We're expecting the exact opposite. We were expecting up 0.1, minus 0.1. Well, we equal where we were in May of 2020 to find a lower number. You're all the way to April of 2020, the heavy COVID-affected months of the calendar. If we take food and energy out, still coming in on the under, up 0.1. We're expecting triple that number, up 0.1. Well, that would equal where we were in June of last year. To find a lower number would be 0 in January of 21. These are definitely low numbers.
Consumer prices month over month. So this was actually a drop of 0.1%, negative 0.1%. That's the first time we've seen that since COVID. Year over year, the annual inflation rate was at 2.4%. This was also better than expected and a 6-month low, moving in the right direction. As far as why this happened, there's a few drivers. One thing that really played a role here, as you can see the trend here, the inflation rate dipping a little bit. One of the drivers was energy. The fact that gasoline prices did not move up like they usually do in the month of March, that really helped the inflation.
So you heard me talk about Patriot Mobile for a while now. You probably already know that for years, they've stood in the gap for every American who believes that faith, family, and freedom are worth fighting for. They are the real deal. But did you know they've got cutting-edge technology too? Switching is easy. No store visits, no hassle. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% U.S.-based team can activate you in minutes right over the phone. And get this, Patriot Mobile is one of the few carriers with access to all 3 major U.S. networks. That means exceptional nationwide coverage, plus they can even put a second number on a different network on one phone. It's like carrying 2 phones in one. They have unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet on-the-go devices, and home internet backup. You can't get this from the big guys. So what are you waiting for? Make the switch today and experience the Patriot Mobile difference. Go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT, and right now use promo code Larry for a free month of service. Switch to Patriot Mobile and defend freedom with every call and text you make. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. MyPillow is excited to announce that they are extending the mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. This is your chance to grab incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets available in any size and color. These luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability, perfect for a great night's sleep. Looking for a meaningful gift? Save 30% on the brand new My Crosses, inspired by the one Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs and are proudly made right here in the good old US of A. Get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets for just $39.98. Initial quantities are extremely limited, so do not wait. And don't forget the best-selling standard MyPillow, now just $17.98. Plus, orders over $75 ship free. Go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Larry, or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. Now, for Democrats, the news gets even worse. New poll shows Americans no longer believe that Democrats care more about people than Republicans do.
This, to me, is one of the most shocking pieces of poll data that I truthfully have seen this year, or maybe in any prior year.
Really?
Yes, really, because I want you to take a look. Cares more about the needs for people like you. You mentioned the Cape Ball, and we got a tie, even after this tariff war had already started, split between Democrats and Republicans on how people feel. Which party cares more for needs of people like you? And why is that so surprising? Because I want you to take a look at prior years. Democrats always lead on this question. Back in 2017, before the 2018 midterms, 13-point lead. 2005, a 23-point lead for Democrats. 1994, which was a big Republican year, a 19-point lead for Democrats. And now, all of a sudden, a tie? All of a sudden, the Democrats, who are the party of the people, no more. We get a tie on this question, on a question that has traditionally overwhelmingly been a Democratic advantage. Which party cares more for the needs of people like you? It's truly something I would not have expected to see, especially after this tariff war had begun.
Attention, anti-oligarchy Bernie Sanders. Are you aware the Los Angeles Dodgers are owned by Guggenheim Baseball Management, whose founder, chairman, and controlling owner, Mark Walter, has a net worth of at least $6 billion. And by the way, when has Bernie Sanders not complained about oligarchs?
This great country of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more moving toward an oligarchy. We are moving in the direction of oligarchy. We will move even more rapidly in the direction of an oligarchy. This great country is evolving into an oligarchic society. It is called oligarchy, and that is the system we are rapidly moving toward. This is a budget that moves our country rapidly into the direction of oligarchy. A handful of billionaires are moving this entire planet toward an oligarchic society.
Start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad, and that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy.
Now, at the downtown Los Angeles Fight Oligarchy rally, we sent our man in the street, William Porter Nelson III, who encountered a couple that wants to defeat white privilege.
Do you think all white people have white privilege?
I do. And my daughter kind of has had to teach me about that because at first I bucked that system. I was like, oh, but your father and I have worked really hard for everything we've gotten. She said, Mom, it's not about that. It's just about that systematic, oppression of certain peoples throughout this nation.
So would you say someone who grew up in maybe like a trailer park and as a white person still has white privilege?
Oh, God, that's so hard. You know how they might is if they're walking into a store, and my daughter's Latino because she's adopted, and for her to walk into a store, especially when she was younger, it's very different than when a white person walks into a store. Like she had some discrimination, and we saw that. At first I was like, oh, I don't know if that's really happening to you.
What part of the country?
This was in California and then in Bend, Oregon. Yeah, like we started doing things like you go in the store.
And these are kind of more progressive states.
Yeah. It happens all over, I mean, we're from here. We love it. We're glad we're here. But, so train of thought. I think, speaking of white privilege, Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
About white privilege?
Yeah, and somebody in a trailer park, do they have the same?
Yeah, well, I just think that they are able to walk anywhere they want to, and they're not going to have people staring at them or questioning, what are you doing here?
You don't think white people get questioned at all?
Oh.
Not as much. I don't think so.
Not as much.
Yeah, I mean...
But some still do.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I think an economic situation, yeah, if you're in Beverly Hills and you're in a golf resort, something, yeah, you may get questioned, what are you doing here? But I'm just talking about like generally in society, I don't think that you're gonna come across uncomfortableness as much as people who are colored do.
Then what happened?
I looked out the window and saw a man run down the block.
Can you describe him?
Well, he was,
Yeah?
he was...
Black?
He happened to be black. I'm sorry.
It doesn't mean anything.
Of course not.
It could have been anybody. It just so happens that in this particular case, he was black.
Next time he'll be white.
Maybe Chinese.
What was he wearing?
Blue jogging suit.
Can you tell me anything else? What kind of hair?
Hair?
Well, he had an
Afro?
right.
Well, you can say that.
You can? I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
Which led to this exchange about black Republicans.
You're saying you don't think Republicans care about black people?
Oh yeah, they hate them. They hate them. They love using them as a cudgel.
What would you say to black Republicans?
That they're dumb. They're like the Jewish Nazis that existed back in the day. They're like gay Republicans. They're like trans.
Do you think Ben Carson, the doctor, is dumb?
Yeah. If you've ever seen the movie Django, you have your house, let's call them slaves. You have your house slaves, and you got your field slaves. And they pit the two groups against each other. It's very simple. Republicans, or rather, the Conservative Party in the South, has been using the fear of black people to suppress white people since before slavery existed. And they do it to this day. Obviously, back in the day, it was the Democrats because they were the Southern racists, and then the party flipped in the 80s, blah, blah, blah.
What do you think about biological men competing in women's sports?
I don't give a I don't give a How many biological men are competing in sports? I think it's like 20? Literally 20. This is an example. This is an example of culture war and conservatives using the house slaves versus the field slaves.
Speaking of Dr. Ben Carson.
What do you say to critics who have called you nasty things like Uncle Tom, who say that you're a traitor to your race?
I say they need to actually listen, not only to what I'm saying, but look at my life and look at what's been done. It is things that are done that elevate people, not things that depress people and make them dependent.
Traditionally, Democrats have gotten most of the African-American vote. Why is that, and what can the GOP do to change that? What can you do to change that?
Well, I think it's because the Democratic Party has ascribed to the Lyndon Johnson philosophy. I don't know if you know Lyndon Johnson said, if we give those N-words such and such, they'll vote for us for the next 200 years. What the Republican Party needs to do is come out and discuss more the kinds of relationships and the programs that will actually bring people out of poverty, that will give them the ability to use their God-given talent to rise rather than to simply be satisfied in a dependent position in our society.
So Ben Carson and black Republicans are sellouts, but this lefty believes blacks are too stupid to figure out how to get ID to vote.
And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic.
People don't have cars, don't have driver's licenses. So it's sort of a vestige of, I think, post-slavery laws where black people had to prove their right to vote. And oftentimes they couldn't vote because they couldn't pass some crazy test or they didn't have the appropriate ID. It also affects women that are married. Maybe your passport reflects something that's different on your birth certificate or on your driver's license. So really the bottom line is voter suppression. And I agree with him 100%. It's a brilliant notion that less voter ID laws allows more people to vote. And most democracies do it that way. We're the only ones that really don't do it that way.
Yeah. You know, there's that saying when this is a solution in search of a problem, this is a classic example of the SAVE Act. What Republicans are doing is, once again, demonizing immigrants for the sake of making it harder for eligible citizens to register to vote and to cast their ballots in elections. It's voter suppression in disguise, not so much of a disguise. Here's the truth. It is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in our elections.
An opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone has data?
You can access the
Unlimited.
internet with unlimited data.
I use my phone as a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of black people?
They're pretty much ignorant. That's why my thought process on it.
I just think that's ignorant.
Ignorant.
Ignorant. That's the word I'm hearing a lot.
Ignorant.
Ignorant.
Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you know, you're putting people in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe a little bit of racist in it, but like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance.
You're judging somebody, like, but you're judging them because they black, saying that they don't got it.
What people are they talking to? Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are you cool?
Love showing my ID.
You got no problem with that?
Nope.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a problem if there was a rule where you have to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Would you have an issue if there was a rule saying you got to show your ID before you vote?
Nah.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
So Bill Maher dines with Donald Trump. And this snooty Washington Post writer insists that Maher was way too stupid to realize that Trump was manipulating him when he invited Maher to the White House. Maher, shall we say, not pleased.
You know, Bill, I think you're right in saying that people have made too much of this, okay? It's not the Alta Summit. You're not Churchill. Kid Rock is not Stalin. Trump shit is an FDR, okay? So, yes, I believe too much has been made about this, but I think you've fallen into the trap. I think that I represent 99% of the internet when I say this, is that you've played the game of proximity is principle. And what people are worried about is not your motivation. We believe you. We love you, Bill. Everybody loves Bill, right? So I'm not questioning your motivation. I'm questioning Trump's, okay? And if we can say that you went there in good faith, but maybe, just maybe, he wasn't there in good faith. I mean, you sold him on the Iran deal and he took it in. I mean, give me a break, okay? So the idea here is that your motivation is sound, but what's the impact? And I think a lot of people out there, fans of yours, people who love you, people who are fans of you, like me, I've been fans of you.
You don't have to patronize me, dude. I don't know you. I never met you.
I'm just saying that this comes from a place of love.
Not everybody has to like it.
That's
what we said. There are people who didn't want it to happen at all. You sound like one of them. It's okay. No. But did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Like, what is the alternative to not talking? Just sit at your lunch table and don't talk to anybody?
I talk to him. I've interviewed Trump. Here's the interview.
That's just not an interview. This was not an interview.
I agree with the principle of engagement. I'm just saying, from his perspective, you have to understand that people out there know, all Americans know, that for him this was a PR stunt, and in his view, you were a prop in that PR stunt. Okay.
I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along?
Pretty insulting. It couldn't be that maybe, just maybe, Maher and Trump thought there might be some common ground and that they could lower the temperature just a little bit. But no, Maher was being manipulated, used. He was a tool, played like a fiddle by the dastardly Donald Trump, said this toady from the Washington Post. And poor Anderson Cooper, he commits the sin of misgendering.
Paul, we're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. I want to introduce Grace Thomas. She's a local civil rights attorney. She's a Democrat. Grace?
They, them pronouns, actually. Thank you.
Oh.
Good evening, Senator Sanders. Polling and turnout data indicate that men of all racial demographics are turning away from the Democratic Party.
I want to introduce Grace Thomas. She's a local civil rights attorney. She's a Democrat. Grace?
They, them pronouns, actually. Thank you.
Oh.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
And what do you call this? Miskinding?
You heard Amanda Wynn tell me in the interview that she's conducting science experiments on this voyage, which I don't think a lot of people knew. Right. They thought it was just 6 women going up into space for a joyride.
Wait, what do you mean just 6 women?
Well, that's what I mean. That was the criticism.
6 women.
That's right.
Right.
But he's speaking to the perspective and some of the narratives that are out there that I was hoping to correct with this interview, and I'm glad that you're here to help me correct that narrative. So explain to our audience why even a trip like this one, all the trips that we take in this space benefit mankind.
So it benefits humankind, and I'm going to keep correcting the mankind and the man-made and the man missions, because this is exactly what this mission is about, is expanding the perspective of who does space.
Why isn't your bank asking what's in your heart? When big banks cancel your account because they don't like your politics, or they share your transaction data with the government, it's no wonder they don't ask what's in your heart. That's not what they care about. Old Glory Bank is different. We're the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Started by Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, and John Rich, we proudly serve customers in all 50 states. Open your account in minutes at oldglorybank.com. We stand with you.
Do you think EVs are better for the planet than gas-powered cars?
I think so. Yes.
Probably not. Yes.
No.
Yes, I think so. I don't think so.
I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, electric is probably the best way to go.
When I first began hearing this business about net zero emission, I felt conflicted.
We will eliminate in the state of California the sales of internal combustion engines.
And most countries in the world have already signed up for it. I love my gasoline-powered cars. I don't want the planet to be damaged, so I just don't know what to believe. Is it really true that electric vehicles are better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles?
So without more mechanical parts moving in the vehicle, it's instantaneous. Torque is instantaneous.
The batteries are lasting very long.
Charging them at your house using solar is amazing.
That's it? Wow. I needed to get my hands on one of those cars.
What is your opinion of electric vehicles?
Oh boy, sorry. I'm not real fond of electric vehicles. They're good for around town. If you long distance, they create anxiety. Had one fire, sitting in the parking lot, just burst into flames. And then you're having a problem with the battery. What do you do with these batteries when they go bad?
When I think about visiting Ogbog Bloshi, it brought me to tears.
This metal to the lithium-ion batteries demand skyrocketed in the past decade.
It's hard to get one mine permitted in the United States, which means we're going to be relying on those people who control those minerals, and that's China.
And I'm not willing to financially support that humanity atrocity.
An electric vehicle is a computer with 4 wheels and some seats.
The components of these electric vehicles are made in China, so there could be tracking mechanisms put into Americans' cars.
And I believe that the United States needs to stand up against that.
And my father always told my brothers and me the following: hard work wins. You cannot control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. And before you moan and groan, ask yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? My one question, my big overriding question would be real simple. Are EVs better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles? Finally, need a hero? Now, you're not supposed to touch the crown prince, but Trump makes his own rules. The next Disney remake.
All right, people, listen the hell up. They call me Snow White, but don't ask me why. It sure ain't how I describe this scenario. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. This dress is way too frilly. But I didn't ask for any of this. One minute I'm polishing floors and dodging my stepmother's side eye, and the next, I'm on the run. How do you expect me to run in these high-heeled slippers? So there's this evil queen with a vanity problem, and she wants my heart on a plate. They say she's the fairest of them all, but let me tell you something. She's also the scariest of them all.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all?
You've asked this before. Maybe go take a nap. Snow White is the fairest, my queen. No cap.
Now I'm holed up with 7 dwarves who pack more than just bad attitudes. And trust me, they're the real deal.
We got your back, White. You say the word, and we'll blast that to kingdom come.
Bow to me, child, or I'll see your bones turn to cinders.
But I'm done hiding. That huntsman did me a solid, and now I'm ready to pay back that favor. It's time to storm the castle, crack that magic mirror, and show the evil queen once and for all exactly who she's with. I had it with these mother apples in this mother forest. And if you think I'm some helpless little princess, well, you better guess again. 'Cause I'm Snow White, mother, and I'm about to put a bullet in this bedtime story. Now pass me that apple. And while you're at it, maybe some combat boots, 'cause I've had enough of these slippers.
Roses are red, violets are blue, and Barney's eggplant is...
Which one? Is it?
It is purple.
Yeah. Can you want me to use it? There you go. Here, you color. Use the pearl and you color. The pearl.
Let's face it, some words are just hard to pronounce.
Will face in 2008.
There you go. Why don't we just ask Obama, what is, since he won by such a big amount.
Hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by Freedom Chat and Am-Fed Coin and Bullion. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and MyPillow. And be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you're using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these incredible videos. And remember, we've got a country to save. Brand new shirt at LarryElderShop.com. The Black Face of White Supremacy, featuring a striking design inspired by the Terminator. This isn't just merch, it's a message. A message to the media, the elites, and the race-baiting left. You can't cancel that which won't quit. Get yours now at LarryElderShop.com and use promo code ELDER25 to save 25%. Wear it proud, stand your ground, and remember, we've got a country to save.